You apologized today. Maybe not out loud. Maybe it was just the way you shrank yourself in a room. The way you explained yourself when no one asked. The way you replayed that conversation at 2 a.m., wondering if you said something wrong, wondering if they're upset, wondering if you're too much or not enough. You didn't do anything wrong, but that never stops the feeling, does it? That is guilt, and you've been living inside it so long, you've stopped noticing it's there. This might not sit comfortably with you, and that's the point, because the things that disturb you the most are usually the things you've been avoiding the longest. Welcome to Serenity Aura, where you don't hear what you want, you hear what you need. Here's what no one tells you about guilt. It doesn't always show up after you do something terrible. Sometimes, most of the time, it shows up for nothing. For existing, for taking up space, for wanting things, for saying no, for saying yes, for just being a person who has needs. And you carry it, quietly, constantly. You over-explain. You over-apologize. You laugh too quickly after saying something real, just to soften the weight of it. You check your messages twice, 3 times, to see if someone is upset with you. And when someone goes quiet, your brain immediately fills in the silence with one answer: I did something wrong. Where does that come from? It doesn't come from adulthood. It comes from something much earlier. From a time when love felt conditional. When you were small and learned, not from words, but from the atmosphere around you, that being good meant being quiet. That being loved meant being easy. That needing too much made you a burden. You didn't decide to believe that. You absorbed it. The way a sponge absorbs water, not by choice, just by proximity. And now, decades later, you are still functioning on that same emotional software. The same code, running in the background of every relationship, every decision, every conversation where you make yourself smaller just to make someone else more comfortable. That is what psychologists call early emotional conditioning. Your nervous system learned, early on, that guilt was a signal, a warning. Adjust yourself. Fix this. Make it right. It kept you safe. It kept you connected. Back then, it worked. But you're not a child anymore. And the guilt is still running. Let's look at what that actually costs you. In your relationships, you say yes when you mean no, and then you resent it. Not loudly. You'd never say anything. You just feel it build, slowly, like water behind a wall. And when the wall finally cracks, when you finally say what you actually feel, you immediately feel guilty for that too. For taking up space. For being a problem. So you go back to yes. And the cycle continues. You attract people who are comfortable with your sacrifice. Because you've made it so easy. Your guilt is their convenience. And somewhere deep down, you know that. And you hate yourself a little for knowing it and staying anyway. In your self-worth. Here's a quiet, brutal truth. Chronic guilt is not humility. It feels like humility. It looks like caring. But at its core, it is a form of control. If you feel guilty enough, maybe nothing bad will happen. If you punish yourself first, the world won't have to punish you. If you stay small enough, you stay safe. That is not modesty. That is fear wearing a costume. And it is slowly convincing you that you are worth less than you are. In your decisions, think about the last time you made a decision purely for yourself. Not for someone else. Not out of obligation. Not to avoid disappointing someone. Just for you. Can you remember it? Because guilt-driven people don't really make decisions. They manage other people's reactions. Every choice runs through the same silent filter. What will they think? Will they be upset? Am I being selfish? And selfish, that word. You use it against yourself so easily. As if wanting your own life makes you a bad person. In your missed opportunities, there were things you didn't do. Things you talked yourself out of. Paths you didn't take because someone needed you more. Or because you didn't feel like you deserved it yet. Or because wanting something that big felt dangerous, like you were getting above yourself. Guilt does that. It doesn't just punish the past. It preemptively punishes the future. You've been living in a prison with an open door, and you keep choosing to stay because leaving feels wrong, because feeling good feels like something you have to earn. So why does this happen? Why is the guilt so loud? Let's go deeper. There's a concept in psychology called the inner critic. It's the voice that narrates your failures in real time. The voice that replays every awkward moment you've ever had. The voice that tells you, at 3 a.m., with no evidence, that people are tired of you. That voice isn't yours. Not originally. It was built from the voices around you when you were forming. A parent who was never satisfied. A sibling who criticized. A teacher who made an example of you. An environment where your emotions were too much, too loud, too inconvenient. You internalize those voices so completely, you now do their job for them. You don't need anyone to make you feel guilty. You do it faster than they ever could. And here's where it gets dark. Some part of you needs the guilt. Because guilt is familiar. Guilt is the emotional home you grew up in. The brain doesn't seek happiness. It seeks the familiar, even when the familiar is painful. This is what neuroscientists call emotional homeostasis. Your nervous system has calibrated itself to a certain emotional baseline. And for you, that baseline includes guilt. Remove the guilt, and something in you gets restless. Something in you doesn't trust the peace. Something in you thinks, the other shoe is about to drop. So you stay in the guilt. Because at least there, you know where you are. There is also something called cognitive dissonance at work here. You've built an identity around being the responsible one, the selfless one, the one who holds it together for everyone else. And any action that contradicts that identity, any moment of putting yourself first, of saying no, of choosing your peace over someone else's comfort, feels like a threat to who you are. So the guilt arrives to protect the identity. Even when the identity is hurting you, you are not guilty because you are bad. You are guilty because you were taught to be. And you've been practicing it for so long. It now feels like personality. It is not. So here is the confrontation. You've been treating guilt like a moral compass. Like if you feel guilty, it must mean something was wrong. But guilt is not a reliable compass. Guilt is a conditioned response. It fires for real wrongdoing, and it fires for simply existing on your own terms. It does not know the difference, and you have been obeying it blindly. Every time you shrink yourself, every time you apologize for a need, every time you bite your tongue and smile and pretend you're fine, you are not being a good person. You are being an obedient prisoner. The cost of staying the same is this. You will spend the rest of your life managing other people's emotions at the expense of your own. You will attract relationships that confirm your deepest fear, that your needs are too much. You will keep proving yourself right. And one day, years from now, you'll wonder why you feel so empty, having spent your whole life being needed, never once allowing yourself to simply be. That is not a dark possibility. For many people, that is already the reality. The only question is whether you're going to keep feeding it. This is not the part where I tell you to love yourself. You've heard that. It hasn't worked. Not because you can't, but because you don't yet believe you're allowed to. So let's start smaller. Start by noticing the guilt without obeying it. Not fighting it. Not suppressing it. Just noticing it. Naming it. There it is. That's the old pattern. Like watching a car alarm go off on a street you're walking down. It's loud. It wants a response. You don't have to give it one. Start questioning whose voice that guilt belongs to. Because it is old. It was built before you had the language to argue back. You have that language now. Start allowing yourself to be wrong sometimes, without turning it into a verdict on your worth as a person. Making a mistake is not evidence that you are fundamentally broken. It is evidence that you are alive and functioning in an unpredictable world. And start making peace with the discomfort of being seen. Because the guilt, at its deepest level, is about this. You are afraid that if people saw the full truth of you, all your needs, all your mess, all your contradictions, they would leave. But that fear was seated in a time when you were dependent on others for survival. You are not that person anymore, and the people worth keeping will not leave because you took up space. The peace you're looking for is not on the other side of being perfect. It is not earned through more sacrifice. It does not arrive after you've punished yourself sufficiently. It is available right now, in the decision, quiet, unglamorous, and real, to stop apologizing for existing. That decision is yours. No one can make it for you, and no one can take it away. If something in this video sat uncomfortably with you, that's not an accident. That's recognition. That is serenity aura. Not a place that tells you what you want to hear, but a place that says what you've needed to hear for a very long time. If you want to keep going deeper, subscribe. Not because it will fix you, but because you deserve to understand yourself. We'll be here.